As a young single teenage mother, my trust was violated at a really, really young age. And for me, it was when I was left as a single mother abandoned with two young children. But what I didn't know is that at the time that that happened in my life, how it was going to impact the decisions that I made for the next 2.5 decades of my life. I didn't realize that this decision, it was going to impact the businesses that I would have. It was going to impact the way I communicated with people. It impacted the way I loved my children. It impacted the way I let people in my space. Because see, society always told me it's okay to have these boundaries and this wall up because you got to protect yourself, keep your space safe. And you know what? If they don't earn your trust, just keep them away. But what no one told me was that by me keeping people away, I had that wall up towards my children. That wall was up when it came to the men that I may have met that never got to know anything more than my name. I had a wall up when it came to my mother. When I worked, I never really had the trust built. But most importantly, I didn't trust myself. I didn't realize that I hadn't forgiven myself for the decision I made to be a teenage mother. See, I blame myself for being that reason why my kids had to grow up without a father. It was my fault for being this young girl, wild and out there, that I had these two kids in the first place. And so because I didn't trust myself, I didn't trust anyone else either. How many of you are in a place in your life where you don't trust a lot of people? Do you have that? Where trust is like your biggest thing? And tonight we're going to talk about how the trust that we have in other people really all comes down to the trust that we have or the lack thereof within ourselves. And how so often we put our entire lives in the hands of so many other people where we want them to be our best friends. Can I trust you? Trust is one of the top things that we want in intimate relationships. When it comes to our kids, when it comes to every relationship, if that trust is not just right, we've stopped. But the question is, how often do we trust ourselves? Do we keep the commitments to ourselves that we require other people to keep to us? Do we really get up at 4 o'clock every morning like we tell ourselves every day for 20 years that we're going to run 5 miles every day? Have we started the business? You know, like, and it's funny, but it's so true. You know, I realized something so real, and this isn't about religion or not, but I'm really, really big on fasting and praying. And so there was something that happened where God said, Tanisha, I want you to not eat bread for a year. Now, y'all don't know, you know, Cynthia and I joked about the food situation, but it's a real thing. I love anything that crackles when it opens. If it wraps, it crackles, like, I'm like, oh yeah, baby. Yes, that's for me. Like, people on the phone will be like, what are you eating? Don't worry about it. Waffles, donuts, cakes, whatever it is, like, I love bread. But God said for an entire year, this was in December, no bread at all. And I was like, what? But I said, okay. And one thing that I know for sure is when God tells you to do something, he makes every single provision to make sure that you're able to do that thing, right? Yeah. So I went through that year. Lord have mercy. It was the year we went to Greece. I'm a vegetarian, and they have the best bread and seafood. I don't eat seafood, and so it was rough. But the bread looked so good, but I couldn't eat any. Like, we went to Aruba. My husband was like, this is amazing. I bet it is. Like, every place we went, but I stuck to it. But what I didn't know is that in August, when I had surgery, I ultimately had a hysterectomy, right? And when the doctor went in, they had this whole plan. And so the doctor, when she came out, she was like, were you having any issues with going to the bathroom? I said, no. Why? She said, because what we thought were fibroids, my colon had twisted completely on the inside of me. Oh. And so what they thought was a fibroid was other things impacted in there. And had I not trusted God's voice to stop eating bread for that entire year, that would have been a very different type of situation. I don't need to tell you what the results, how grave it could have been. And had I not trusted God when he said, stop eating meat. So between the meat, if I was eating meat, but I don't, and the bread, so now I'm alive, right? Because of this. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Yeah, no, but that's okay. It has nothing to do with that. There's no judgment when it comes to meat. It's my story, right? It's not anybody else's story. But the point is trusting yourself enough to know when life-threatening things. So thankfully I had come to a place where I trusted myself, which was good. But then it led me to realize discipline, how hand in hand it comes with trust. If we can't discipline ourselves enough to say, I don't want this piece of cake, and this is me, because it was a whole year, but I got used to it after a while, right? But if we can't discipline ourselves, why are we so upset with our kids when they can't discipline themselves to do other things? You know, when we're so upset with our children, and why aren't they focused in class? Why aren't they doing what they're supposed to do in school? But how much time do you spend at work flipping through social media? When we tell our kids, listen guys, make sure you dream big. I want y'all to go after your biggest dream. You know what? You're not dreaming big enough. You're not doing enough. But we've been at that job for 20 years, miserable, and all they ever hear is us complaining about how miserable we are. Where's the trust? Because if they can't trust by seeing us through our actions, that's where it comes, right? So I began to think, what other areas do I not trust myself in? And where am I missing things? And how is that impacting my business? Because see, if we don't trust ourselves, when we go to approach a new client, we're not as confident, because trust and confidence are the same. They're one and the same. Like that trust. When you see somebody, maybe people see me and they're like, wow, she's real confident. It's because I grew to trust myself. Because there was a time where I didn't trust myself, and so therefore, when it came to sales, I didn't want to ask you too many questions, because I felt like I was being nosy or I was prying. But I was forgetting that you called me.
Right.
You asked me for your help. So for us, my question is, what do we need to shift as we learn to trust? As we learn to trust the voice in our head, even when it's uncomfortable. It was uncomfortable not eating bread as I literally traveled the world that year with my husband, but it was worth my life. And in the moment, it didn't make sense. But it all played out to a complete story as to why it was so important for me not to do that in that moment. And see, when God said, Tanisha, it's time for you to leave your job. And I was like, no, it's time for you to leave that job. No, just a little bit more. And then I began to notice that everybody else, like I became the outcast. And God was like, no, you're really not the outcast. It's just you're changing. They're not changing. They're the exact same way they've always been. You see them differently because you're shifting. And so now, since you didn't hear me clearly, I'm going to shove you out. So then I overstayed my welcome, which I can't blame anyone but myself, because he had already told me that it's time. But you know what it did? Because I trusted myself and I trusted God, it then led my 24-year-old daughter to launch her own company. So she's the CEO of a company. She wouldn't have birthed that. So the trust that we have in ourselves, as we all talk about the legacies that we're going to leave and all the great things, it starts with an uncomfortable action that's going to come. And we have to be willing, ready, and able to trust ourselves. You don't have to trust the entire thing, because you don't know what you're trusting. But you got to trust yourself enough to know, you know what? The decisions that I made in the past, whether it was that man, whether it was the job, whether it was with my parents, whatever it was, we got to figure out where we need to forgive ourselves first for those decisions that we made that weren't right, because they may not have been the best decision overall for our lives and how it impacted us, but it was the best decision for us in that moment. Yeah. In that moment, we needed whatever it was that we needed in that moment to feel safe. Remember, our brains are created to keep us safe. They're not created for us to jump out and be adventurous. No, our brains are created to solely keep us safe. And so whatever decisions you've made, today I'm going to ask you to figure out where it is that you lost the trust in yourself. Because anything that you don't have in life right now is just a matter of not trusting yourself enough. For me, I know part of my trust is I love snacks. So I can't even trust myself enough to know that I need to just, even after the year of away from my snacks, I still went back to my snacks, and I knew how good I looked, but I love my snacks. And it seems funny, but it's so real. Why can't you trust yourself enough to know that, Tanisha, you're bigger than a piece of cake? But the cake is so good. It really is so good. But why? You guys know what that thing is in your own life. You know what I mean? But the trust begins with us. So I'm going to ask us, how do we rebuild when we've lost trust in ourselves? So let's go over a couple things. One, discover the reasons why you lost trust in yourself. And that's going to be a very candid question for you. This is not for you to call your girlfriends and say, girl, when do you think I stopped doing X? No. Every answer that you need for your life is already inside you. Every answer is inside you. So discover that why. Stop being a know-it-all. You know, people say, oh, women think they know it. No, they don't. Men do too. Everybody thinks that they just know it all. But that's just our protection to say, I know it all when it comes to me. But I had to learn how to say, no, you know what? Because there's something that you know that can give me a different perspective. That probably is that one thing that I need to tweak just a little bit to change the course of my life. So I stopped knowing everything. I know some things, but I know that you have some really special things that you can share with me. And as you embark upon other things that you can share with me, and it's okay that you're much younger than I am, I can still learn and grow from you as well, which is what I do from the kids. So we have to remove the idea that we know it all. We do know our lives and we know what's best, but here's the reality. If we're not exactly where we want to be, and since we are always ever evolving, there's always something new and special for us to learn. And we have to trust ourselves to know, you know what? I'm going to take this right here, what I need, and I'm going to leave the rest. Learning from someone doesn't mean I have to take on everything you share with me. It just means I get to take the nuggets that you've imparted upon me, and I'm going to take what I need, and I'm going to leave the rest. But we have to trust ourselves first to know that we can do that without me talking to Cynthia, and now I've changed my entire life existence because she told me how she does it. But we do that, right? What did you say? That works with you and your husband? Let me just transform my whole life, and now everyone's in the uproar because I'm trying to do it the way she did. I don't know all the dynamics of how she did it. And then now it's not working, so I'm going to go over here to Donna. Donna, how'd you do it? Great. And we keep changing. And we never tell ourselves, I trust you, Tanisha, that the way you've been doing it, it's good enough. You just want to keep tweaking and keep evolving in order to grow. I don't have to be Cynthia, and I'm not supposed to be Donna. I'm supposed to be me. We sit and we spend all our time telling our kids, what's the one thing? Stop being like your friends. Stop trying to be like everybody else. Be yourself. Yet, we spend all day on social media envying somebody else's life. She's always on vacation. She looks so great in the bikini. Whatever the story is, the thing that we tell them not to do is exactly what we do, and we wonder why we keep not getting the results that we want in our lives because we really aren't doing what we're saying. So it starts with us, right? So then remember that trust and confidence go hand in hand, which I mentioned, and stop relying solely on others. My business isn't thriving because Miss Sylvia didn't help me like she told me she was going to do the business cards, and she never did them. So it's 2 years later and I still haven't started the business because Miss Sylvia never did the business cards. We're laughing, but you know it's true. I was supposed to do that business back in the day, but you never set up my website. Guess what? I have learned so much through, I won't just say trial and error because I didn't fail. It was just a learning experience. Just start. I literally, this journey began when I left corporate America. No one believes me when I tell them that it was just October that Blending Our Love was launched. I've literally traveled the world in those few months, impacting the world, because I saw my vision. I didn't see it clearly, but I knew I was doing something. Did you say jump on Facebook Live every day? Okay. Hey, everybody. I don't know what I'm talking about all the time, but I'm figuring it out as we go. And guess what? I can promise you I'm having so much fun. Right? And then anybody who asks me questions, I'm always glad to share. And I'll tell you, I don't know. Tanisha, what do you do? I mean, Cynthia was like, how are you doing? Girl, I don't know. I'm just doing it. Having fun. But that comes with trusting in ourselves, right? Knowing that it's okay if you don't like me. And it's okay if I'm a little bit too much for you. I know, sometimes I'm a little bit too much for myself. But I'm cool with that. You know what I mean? Like, you gotta be okay with yourself to know everybody's not celebrating you. That's why I'm a cheer for myself. I will pat my own back.
I know that's right.
I will do cartwheels for myself. I will sing a song and make up a dance all day long. And that's what I'm encouraging all of you to do. I don't find the excitement when I hear it play. No, the excitement starts when I'm at home moonwalking, when my husband walks in the door. Hey, boo! Hey, boo! Hey, boo! Hey, boo! Hey, boo! Hey. Like, all the time. Seriously. Daddy's having a bad day, kids. Everybody go give Daddy a hug. He's like, oh, my God. Like, these are things that I do behind the scenes because I've trusted myself enough to know what I need, what others need. We have to have that trust. If we feel as though people are not so open towards us, there's something in us. That's that wall, right? Inside of us. So tell your yourself the truth.
I like that one too.
Tell yourself the truth. We can tell everybody else whatever it is we want, but the reason why we really don't have what we really, really want, whatever that is for you, is because we're not even telling ourselves the truth. Let yourself know, girl, you're going to make a mistake. I look in the mirror and say, you're going to make a mistake, but it's cool. Those mistakes that we thought were going to take us completely out, they didn't. So what are you supposed to do, ladies? You're supposed to stand up tall, straighten that crown out, and keep moving straight ahead. That's what you're supposed to do. It was a mistake. It wasn't a life sentence. It was just this one mistake. And sure, it may have set you back a little bit, but it might have been the thing that you needed in order to help catapult you forward. So trusting yourself is something that we all overlook too often. We place all of this responsibility on all of our loved ones, our husbands, boyfriends, fiancés, children, the people around us, with trust. We put everything in them, but we give them all of our power because we don't even trust ourselves to the degree that we want them to trust us. And then we wonder why we're always the ones giving. You ever been in that place where you feel like you're giving to everybody all the time, and then you feel left empty and alone? Why? Because you haven't said to anyone else, I trust you enough to help me. Because you don't even trust you enough to help you. How can someone else come in to help you if you don't even trust yourself enough to help yourself? Ladies, it's time for us to straighten up our crowns, trust ourselves more than anyone else. I'm not telling you that it's easy. It is a journey. And when you see someone that is confident, most times they found a way to trust themselves, even in the midst of all of the mistakes, all the errors. They're going to get it wrong. We will get it wrong. So if you are a perfectionist, which is an illusion, if you're a perfectionist and you're thinking, I'm going to make a mistake, so I'm just not going to do it. Well, guess what? I'm going to be the first one to tell you, you're going to get it wrong sometimes, right? And even the things that were meant to be a certain way that you got wrong still turned out right. Coca-Cola was not supposed to be created. Coca-Cola, they were actually trying to do something else. They made a mistake with the ingredients and came up with Coca-Cola, and we all see that was a multi-billion-dollar mistake. So sometimes our mistakes weren't even mistakes, they're really gifts. So find the gift in everything. But most importantly, ladies, find the gift in yourself to trust the you.